So, welcome to which kind of website help do you actually need? Is it a VA, a virtual assistant, a web designer, a developer, a consultant, or something else? And how to choose the right one? And let me just say, it's okay if you don't know. It's okay to don't know what you don't know. This is what I'm here for. So let's talk about why this matters. Why I decided to do this is because I've seen people asking for website help, and it sort of comes across as this catch-all or interchangeable term that can mean a few different things. And this can result in some confusion, indecision. It can lead to hiring the wrong person. And the whole point of this, why I'm explaining this to you, is I don't really feel like I need to explain every single role in detail or what their job description is. All that I want for you to know is to know which person is the right one for your specific problem. Okay, so I want to throw in a couple of things here that may also help you understand the concepts behind this and where I'm coming from. So, I want you to think of building a website a bit like building a house or building a structure or a building for your business. And there is a great deal of difference between building with an architect and without an architect. And the same can apply when you're approaching building a website. So the more drafting and blueprinting and planning you do before you go ahead and build something or tweak something or redesign something, the better and more structurally sound the outcome will be. And I do believe this to be true with constructing a building as well, a physical building. And another thing that I wanted to highlight here, and I will repeat this throughout the presentation, is that it's okay to not know what you don't know. There is no shade and nothing to be ashamed of. Everybody is at different understanding levels and different skill levels, especially when it comes to technology and understanding how to have a business on the internet. So it's totally fine if you come across somebody doing something and they make it look really easy, but it feels confusing to you. That's why I'm here. And another point I want to raise is that yes, mistakes can happen. Um, Also, I do not want to make you feel bad for this. I just want to let you know what could be ahead if you walk into something unprepared. So, what can happen is that you end up spending money on something that's not right for you. It is unfortunate, but for me and my perspective, I want to let you know that this may not necessarily be a fault with the web designer, or it may be. Um, so I hope this helps you understand who's doing who you need to approach when it comes to a specific problem and what to keep in mind when you're starting a new project. One proverb that I think helps explain this well is this Japanese proverb that states, the longer you stay on the wrong train, the more expensive it is to get home. And this can absolutely be true for website projects. It may work out to be that you get yourself on a path and you sort of fall into this sunk cost fallacy where you just got to keep going with it um, because unfortunately it was the wrong one and it may be possible to steer it back the right way. But it's like website projects can be like a moving train. Like it's trains you can't exactly like stop suddenly and pivot. They've got momentum. Um, so yeah, this is why this fits in. So let's get on to the actual meat of the presentation. So let me talk about what website help can mean. And how I see this is like it's kind of this spectrum of different layers and different jobs of the kind of people who can help you. So at the top here, I've got virtual assistant. So a virtual assistant is someone who helps you with day-to-day things. They might show up as on-demand help. Someone that you might reach out to over an email or text message or something like that, just as needed. In the moment, I feel like I need to add this thing to my website, but I'm too busy, so I'll hand it to this person. And that's kind of the normal thing that you'd expect them to do. And then I've got here web designer. So a web designer is someone that you talk to when your website feels outdated or it doesn't really look the way you want it to. And then the next one down is kind of similar to a web designer, which is web developer. So web developer is someone you go to if your concern is to do with your website maybe being slow or there's a functionality problem. And yes, I do agree, and I do understand that it may seem like web designer and web developer are two different terms for the same person, or maybe you're not sure like which one is right. So it can be the case that one individual person can have an overlap of skills between a web designer and a web developer, but it's more common for a web designer and a developer to be two separate people. So web designer is website looks, and web developer is website functions. And then the next thing I've down here I've got is a digital architect or a digital consultant. So this is someone who you might talk to if your business is growing or it's changing shape and you've got bigger needs that sort of escape the bounds of what is possible with a web designer or a web developer. And what you need right now kind of encapsulates all of your digital ecosystem. So it's an overall look at your website and your online marketing, your Google business profile, your lead generation system, or how you're getting sales online. So all of that stuff combined, that can be looked at by a digital consultant. So it's who you might go to if your business is growing or it's changing and you don't want to have to think too much about tech. And then the last category I've got here is, in quotes, website builder. So this can mean a variety of different things. You might refer to your web designer or your web developer as a website builder. So it can be a person or it can be software. So in some situations, you might sign up for a website package and they might have something like type in here how you'd like your website to be, and then the software in your web browser and your web hosting platform will sort of guess. It'll provide a template and sort of guess based on what you provided a website there in front of you. And another thing this could mean is going outside of your website hosting platform, going to something like ChatGPT or Claude. The way it stands now in 2026, these AI systems are actually quite confident at building websites. So they can indeed build something for you. And that is becoming a way that people make websites. And when we say website builder, this could simply mean Claude. This could be your prompts in Claude and what you asked it to make. All right, so now let's talk about what kind of conversations you would have with these different types of people. So as previously stated, a virtual assistant is a person who's kind of there on call, they're there on standby. And when you're thinking, oh, I need to update a piece of content, I'll flick this to you in Slack, I'll flick this to you in an email, maybe even text them. And you might go to them if you're too busy to log into your website and change something yourself. So it's pretty normal to expect a virtual assistant to understand how to get into your WordPress admin or your Shopify admin or whatever website builder you're using. It's pretty normal for them to know where to look and how to update content for you. So the next thing down is web designer. So you might be having conversations with your web designer about that your website looks old, or maybe it doesn't look trendy. You want it to look, more in step with current design trends. So you want to change how it looks, the colors, the fonts, and matching the visual identity of your brand. So those are the kind of conversations you have with a web designer. Now, a web developer, you might have conversations with a web developer if you want to address something like a slow page, or maybe your site overall is slow and you want to find out why and if it can be fixed. You might talk to a web developer instead of a web designer because um, it may be the case that the problem with your website might brush against what a designer is capable of. So um, as previously said, like some individual people might have overlapping skills between designer and developer. So some designers might understand code, or they might understand a tricky optimization problem that's making your website slow, but they may not. So this is why a web developer might be a separate call to make. And you might also be talking to a web designer if you want to add or change some functionality on your website. So setting up a funnel, setting up a shopping cart, or a booking system that's inside your website. So that may brush up against what a web designer is capable of. So that's when we might talk to a developer. And then your digital architect or your consultant is someone like me. You might be having conversations with me about knowing who to ask about what your problem is, which of these roles is right for you. Um, and you may also be in a situation where, yeah, your business is changing shape. Maybe you're moving locations and you're, looking at doing this big structural overhaul of how all the different digital bits fit together. Uh, so this is, where you might call in a consultant, have a conversation with them, and you might be in a position where, yeah, your business is changing shape or growing, and you really don't have the headspace to handle all the tech and making sure that your SEO and your Google business profile is sitting nicely with your website. And then here at the bottom, I've got quote web builder. Maybe it's an AI that you're talking to, so ChatGPT or Claude. And this is kind of nebulous because everyone's kind of at a different skill level with talking to these AI chatbots. So you might meet somebody who says, yeah, I can totally make a website with Claude or ChatGPT, and they might show you something then and there that looks really good. But somebody else who maybe is having conversations with ChatGPT might find themselves asking and over again or going around in circles trying to get the thing that they want. So totally fine and normal. Everybody is at a different space, a different place when it comes to getting an AI to build a website for you. So totally normal. And it's totally reasonable if you want to just throw in the towel and get a human to help you. That's also what I'm here for. So now let me just put simply how to choose the right one. So a virtual assistant, someone you might approach if the problem is just admin, like you don't have the time to log in and add products to your website or add pages. So a virtual assistant, you can expect them to be on call, pay them by the hour. Maybe you pay them as needed, or maybe they've got a fixed retainer where they're just sitting on standby and ready for you to send things to them. That's kind of the normal thing to expect from a virtual assistant. So with a web designer, so we're having questions and conversations with them about presentation. It's the design. It's my website looks like it was made in 2010. We need to change this. This is where you'd go to a web designer. So web developer, this is where you'd start if it's a functionality problem. It's slow. It's a broken button. It's a broken booking calendar. It's a broken funnel. There's weird gobbledygook code on my page. I don't know what it means. This is something that a web developer can be approached for. And then here we've got the consulting layer. So I don't know, or I don't have time for this. There's too many moving parts. I don't know how all these different tech things fit together. That's where you go to a consultant. And instead of repeating the chatbot again, I've got this layer here, a business or brand strategist. So this is like a really kind of bigger picture option, a bigger picture issue where you need overall, like overarching help with the shape of your business or the branding and where you fit in the marketplace. So me here as your digital consultant, I can definitely have a look and see where your website and your online marketing and your SEO and all that stuff like hooks together. But a website isn't a business on its own. So if the problem is more like you don't know where you fit in the marketplace, or you don't know if your business idea is valid, or you're not quite sure who your target audience is, those are the kind of questions that you might bring to a more general business strategist. So I can definitely like point you in the right direction with the digital stuff, but if it's more like, yeah, I don't know where I fit in the marketplace, or I don't have a business plan, that's when I'd direct you towards a more general business consultant or business strategist rather than a digital consultant. All right, so now let's talk about some common mistakes. And look, I'm not here to make you feel bad. You don't know what you don't know, and that's fine. This is what I'm here for. So some of these mistakes are kind of similar and can overlap. So the first one is hiring a builder when you actually need direction. So this is hiring someone to build a website to be your business. But maybe it's lacking something like a target audience or a position in the market. And if you came to me with an idea for a website, but if I didn't see a good marketing or business strategy underneath that, I would be asking questions about that. I'm not I'm not going to come to you and say like that's a stupid idea, but I would be questioning whether this is a worthwhile endeavor to be building a website. When actually your business idea might need some feeling out, it might need some research, or maybe it's not even ready for a website. Like this is what I'm saying. I'm not saying that your idea is wrong and you shouldn't do it, but maybe there's a different direction that you need to go in right now. And I'm not saying this to stop you from following your dreams. I'm telling you this because I want you to be on a more efficient path to getting what you want and not overspending on something that's not actually going to help. And so let's move on to the next one, which is hiring a designer when the problem is the messaging or the structure of your website. So what can happen here is that you might hire a web designer to make a really beautiful aesthetic website. It looks great, but it doesn't convert. So this may not necessarily be a fault of your design choice or the skill of your web designer, because they know what aesthetically looks good and what looks pleasing. But if you get a really beautiful looking website, but it doesn't lead to people actually making a purchase or reaching out to you, that may not be a problem with the design or your personal design choices. It may actually be a problem with what your website actually says. So the words, the value proposition, and it could also be a problem with the navigation structure of the website. So once somebody's landed on it and they've seen it and they say, oh, yes, it looks beautiful, but what do I do next? You could have a really stunning, gorgeous, beautiful website, but if it's not clear what the exchange is that your website visitor is getting, and if it's not clear what they should do next, then they're going to bounce. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't want to, again, I don't want to tell you that your visual preferences are bad or wrong, but this is something that can be missed when getting a website made, and it's something to look out for. Similar kind of thing if you're paying for a website developer to build something, but again, the business plan might be missing something. So you might have an idea of technically the kind of website that you want, but it's still kind of like, again, missing that sort of message or that direction element of who this is for and where it needs to go. So also, this is a place where I might sort of ask questions about what your business strategy is. And if I believe that you've got a solid idea technically for a website, but you're worried about making a return on your investment and making something that's going to make you money, I might advise that you actually go and speak to a business consultant or a marketing strategist before you actually go ahead and spend thousands, potentially tens of thousands on something that is technically wonderful and does all kinds of great things and impresses people, but doesn't actually serve a business purpose. And then the last common mistake is treating all website help as interchangeable. And yeah, look, I want to say again, it's normal to not know what you don't know. It's totally normal to see the title web designer and web developer and be confused about whether or not that's the same thing. That is fine. That is normal. We are all at different levels of understanding here. And this is why hopefully you've been paying attention and will have learned something from this presentation if I've done my job right. But yeah, this is also why I'm here. I am more than happy to guide you if you're not sure which specialist you should be talking to, depending on what stage your business is in and how much of it is figured out. So here's where I want to wrap up, and this is your decision framework. So this is where you can reflect on when you've got a need or a problem. This is kind of the way to look at it. So first you want to ask yourself, what is broken? And then what outcome do you want? What is the simplest next step? And then what level of support will get you there fastest? So this is how I'd break it down. You can identify what's broken and think about what outcome you'd like, and then work your way from there. And if you don't know, ask an expert. This is what we're here for. All right. So that was it. Thank you so much for sticking around, and I really appreciate you taking the time to sit with me in this presentation. I hope this helped you out. I hope this gave you a better understanding of what sort of website help to look for. And if you can think of anyone who might benefit from hearing this, please do share this presentation with them. Again, thank you a lot for being here, and I look forward to seeing you out there on the internet. If you'd like to reach out to me, you can connect at the link here. So that is loukoz.com, loukoz.com/hello. I welcome your feedback, your questions, and yeah, I hope you do well on the internet.